So if you want to come up and say something right now before at the beginning of the panel, that'd be great.
If you want.
I absolutely want. You've been a big supporter, so I appreciate that.
Thanks. I just want to say hello to everybody, and we look forward to this event every year, and I think it's really important conversations to have, and I know I've found it beneficial in the past, and for the Newhouse School, we're always looking for ways to continue to improve and grow and be a wonderful, diversive, inclusive school and community, and we are as strong as our students and our faculty and our staff. So just look forward to being here together with everyone today, and excited to hear the conversation. So, sure.
We appreciate that. Thank you, Dean Lodato. Professor Lewis will start and begin our program as of right now. Thank you all.
Thank you, Vince. As Vince said, I'm Elliot Lewis. I'm a professor of practice and director of the graduate program in broadcast and digital journalism here at the Newhouse School, and the faculty advisor to our SU chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists. So welcome, everyone. As Vince said, this is a conversation among our panelists, so the format is going to be a little bit different from other programs that we often have here in the HERG. So typically there's a point at which we pass the microphone around and have some Q&A and audience interaction. The format that Vince has established for our session here this afternoon is to have a listening session among our panelists. So we won't be going out into the audience for those Oprah-style questions like we often do. However, several of our panelists have indicated a willingness to engage with members of the audience one-on-one after our discussion concludes at 1:30. So perhaps some members of the audience and our panelists would like to engage at that time in a more free-flowing kind of thing with audience members. So let me just start off with a simple question, and we'll just kind of go down the row of those here on the panel. If you could tell us your name, your major, and what was your journey like getting to Newhouse?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rashawn Barksdale. I am from Columbus, Ohio. My journey here, I graduated last May from Central State University, May of 2022, receiving my Bachelor of Arts degree in Broadcast and Digital Media. How I got here with the process, my school didn't help me with graduate school. I didn't even think about going to graduate school. I think it was just going about hopping into the work field and working my way up. But with a cumulative of a 387, you can go to any graduate school, hopefully with a discount. So, so I did the research. I saw Syracuse University. I made connections with some of the peers of Sequence 65 in television, radio, and film. And then I had the opportunity to speak to a professor, Bob Thompson. And then I had the opportunity to speak to Professor Schoonmaker, Schoonie as y'all would call him. And so I applied and I got accepted and I'm here. So that is my journey on how I got here.
I'm sorry, I suck at public speaking. But my name is Kimora. Well, I go by Kimmy. And I'm from Bronx, New York. I'm not in Newhouse as of yet. I plan on transferring next spring semester. And that's because I'm a transfer student from Morgan State University. My journey was pretty interesting. I dealt with a lot of differences being here as far as like the environment, the academics, and really just trying to like adapt.
Mic me up. So how y'all doing? My name is Jordan Pierre. Yeah. I'm currently a senior. I major in broadcast and digital journalism with a minor in entrepreneurship, merger enterprise, and I'm from Brooklyn. My journey to Syracuse was a little bit different. I got accepted into the Higher Education Opportunity Program. Some people abbreviate as HEOP. I was indecisive between coming to Syracuse or to go to Morehouse. Initially, I wanted to go to Morehouse, but I got accepted here for a full ride. And in that process of waiting to see what the financial aid package looked like for Morehouse, I wound up losing the scholarship that I had through the Higher Education Opportunity Program. So I was in a position where I didn't have no real determinant of where I was gonna go. And I was sitting there, and then Craig Tucker, who was the chair of HOP, I was sitting there in my school with my guidance counselor, and we was there all night. And he called, he's like, if any student drop out, you're gonna be the first person I call, because I leveraged the relationships that I had. There's a lot of students that was inside the institution that I knew that came from the same programs as me in the same school. So I made some phone calls or whatever, and they get to Craig Tug. He like, if somebody drop out, you're gonna be the first student I call. So he called me that night. I say it's probably like 12:30, it's midnight. And he called, I'm still with my guidance counselor at the time. And we run to the computer, somebody had actually dropped out. And when they dropped out of the applicant pool, I signed up and I got the spot back to a full ride acceptance letter back here. So with that story, I just feel like God is intentional with our experiences, and he's intentional with where he places us. I think often we get so caught up in positionality and where we are at in life that we lose a sense of our calling. You know what I mean? I think that with all positionality in all places that we in, there is a purpose. So I think there was a purpose for me being here. So I don't really question too much about how I got here, because I feel like it was intentional in this way. And then I'll speak about it more as we go through the panel.
My name is Alicia Waller. I am a broadcast digital journalism major. I am from Syracuse, New York, born and raised. If you ask anybody who knew me when I was 16, 17, would I end up in Syracuse, New York? They would say no. So my journey here, I am a high school dropout. I got my GED. I am not ashamed of it, because I think when I was a teenager, I did not take my education seriously. I was a social butterfly. If someone said, oh, let's leave, let's go somewhere, I was out of school. Had nothing to do with my parents because they were after me, but I think sometimes your parents take for granted that we are actually adults. And so got my GED, had a son, I have a 9-year-old, and I started in healthcare because it was good money, it supported me and my son, and I was more after like making money, taking trips, buying nice things, that I didn't really take my education seriously until a few years ago. So when COVID happened and I was in healthcare, I was like, I cannot do this. This is a lot. People were dying. It was just a sad time for everybody. And I'm in my department chair at Cayuga, because I'm a transfer, so I went to Cayuga. The department chair, he's a Syracuse alum, he was like, what do you want to do? Do you really want to be a nurse practitioner? Because that's what I wanted to do. And I said no. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And he was like, you're good at public speaking, you're good in front of an audience, I think you would be really good at like news. And I was like, no. How much do they pay? But then my mom, she retired. She was spent 40 years in oncology as an oncology nurse, and she would be at Upstate Oncology Center till like 8 o'clock at night. And I'm like, Mom, leave, you're off the clock, your salary, leave. But then that was her passion. So I was like, okay, I need to find my passion. So I found my passion, was a straight A student at Cayuga, and I applied here, and I think I called the person the transfer advisor like every day. I'm like, I'm not gonna get accepted, I just need to go somewhere else. And just was looking at a few different options. And I went to the NFL Combine last year, and everyone that was there was from Syracuse. And they said, if this is what you want to do and you're serious about it, you need to go to Syracuse. And so they accepted me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I thought this was crazy. But Karen McGee, we had to do like this FYS seminar. I'm sure everybody here has done it. And it was only 7 of us. And she was like, yeah, I'm just having a small group do this FYS Com 100. And it was only 7 of us. And I was like, why is this one so small? And she was like, well, you were the only Newhouse transfers that we accepted. I said, really? And so I just think that speaks volumes, and that I do belong here. So even though my journey was very unconventional and I'm not a non-traditional student, I love it here, so.
Hi, my name is Jayla Pettis. I'm a master's student in the Broadcast and Digital Journalism program on the Sports Media and Communications track. And I would say that my journey to Newhouse was very different. So I went to UNC Greensboro, and I majored in communication studies, and then I was a radio minor. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my degree or like my career path. So I think it was my junior year of undergrad, and I was connected with my mentor who works now at WRAL in Raleigh. Valley. He was a sports anchor, and once I was paired with him, I said, okay, I think I want to go into sports. This is what I want to do. So I had a friend who just graduated last year from Newhouse, and she said, I'm at Syracuse University. I love the program. So I started doing more research. I applied to Elon University, Syracuse, and I was accepted, and I literally cried when I got accepted because I was like, oh, God, okay. So I was offered a scholarship, and then I was thinking Newhouse I think might be the perfect fit for me. So when we visited, my mom and I, we visited for the open house last year. And I don't know, it was just so surreal. I was like, I'm here, I'm from North Carolina, a small town, and I'm just being in Syracuse. It was much different from Kings Mountain, but I think just speaking with all of the professors, I know when I spoke to Professor Somsky, I just knew she was really for us and about the students. And then when she talked about a potential opportunity of us going to NFL training camp, because I want to go into sideline reporting, I said, yeah, I think Newhouse is the place for me. So I didn't know really in the beginning what I wanted to do, but then once I got accepted to Newhouse and then found out that I would be in the BDJ program, that's when I was like, yeah, Newhouse is the place for me.
Okay, hello y'all. My name is Samara. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I graduated from Clark Atlanta University with my bachelor's in mass media arts with a concentration in PR. So my journey to Newhouse, so first I was kind of undecided about grad school. I knew I was going to go, but I was kind of stuck between three of them. So a lot of my counselors and advisors were telling me to go to USC if I was going to go into PR, but I was kind of already done with the whole PR side of things. I wanted to go more into media planning and stuff like that, so that transpired into advertising for me. And I just wanted to go to the top school for advertising or top communication school. So I did end up applying to USC, and I got in there, and then I applied to Newhouse, and I got into there as well. And I chose to go to Newhouse. So they sent me my acceptance letter the day of my birthday, and I didn't even open it because I was like, it's my birthday. If they deny me and I open this letter on my birthday, I'm gonna be mad. So I didn't even open it. I just let it sit on the counter for a little bit, and maybe I say 4 days, 5 days later, I opened it, and I got accepted. So then I called my mom, told my mama, and I forwarded the email to her too. And she was like, oh my God. So she was crying and stuff like that. They did give me a scholarship. And yeah, that was my journey. We packed up my Kia, and we drove 15 hours up here from Atlanta. And that was a long ride because everybody was talking about, oh, we're going to help you drive. So it was me, my auntie's daughter, which is my cousin, and then, yeah, so it's us four. And they was like, we're going to help you drive, whatever. And they get in the car. They didn't even help me drive, bro. They was along for the trip. They just wanted to go to New York. And I'm like, you know what? It's all good. So me and my cousin drove the whole way. We got here, and I know my family don't really get to experience the big city life and stuff like that for real. So I drove them 4 hours to NYC and just took them to Times Square on July 4th because we were supposed to, classes started July 5th. So that was my journey here to Newhouse.
How are you guys doing today? My name is DeAndre Cersei. I'm a TRF master's student here. I graduated from Clark Atlanta May of 22, and I got my master's in mass media art, bachelor's in mass media arts there. My main focus here is directing, writing, and acting. My journey on getting here was kind of crazy. I didn't plan on going to grad school. I was like, after I graduate, I'm going to California. I'm gonna be the biggest actor, and that's all I'm gonna do. I had no interest in going to grad school. I didn't want to spend no more years in school. One day, I have a professor at Clark by the name of Gary Yates, and he has said this week Clark is going, not Clark, but Syracuse is going to be coming to speak with the students in regards to grad school program. You guys should stop by. They're going to give out money. Whoop de whoop. So I came on the Zoom, and the first thing I heard was 1 year program. So I was like, all right, now they got me tuned in. 1 year. So I'm like, okay, I get my master's in 1 year. That's pretty cool. So can't be that bad. So we had the whole Zoom. I was sold by the end of the Zoom because once they said 1 year, you didn't have to say no more. So after that, Michael Schoolmaker, I followed up with him a lot, and Sojo as well. She used to work here as well. and I follow up them a lot. I got my portfolio together because I didn't have anything together. So I'm like, I got to send them something and get accepted. So I just put together like all my work and everything that I've done. And I kept sending everything to school and like, how does this sound? Does this sound good? Like I talk to him like every week. I was like, I'm gonna make sure I get into this school. And then one day I got my acceptance letter and I was like, oh, all right now. So I got accepted. So am I really gonna go now? I was like, man, I need to sign if it's like the right place to go. I was on a cruise one day and I just went to the gift shop and I seen this couple with like Syracuse shirts. And I'm like, oh, I just got accepted into there. They're like, you should go. Where did you get accepted? Into the Newhouse program? I'm like, oh, actually, yes, I did. So that was that. And then the day I actually moved here was like hell because I missed 3 flights from Atlanta trying to get to Syracuse. Well, when I ended up getting
You were flying Delta, weren't you? Delta, right?
It was definitely Delta. It was definitely Delta. but it was a journey getting here. But I would say ever since I've been here, I've loved it. So yeah.
Well, listening to many of you describe your journeys and the sort of unconventional path that you took to get into Syracuse and to get here to Newhouse, I'm kind of reminded that many of us on the faculty here also arrived at Newhouse through an unexpected and an unconventional path. So, it all works out in the end. My next question for you all, and you can respond in any order that you want. What has your student experience been like here at SU and at the Newhouse School? And when I say student experience, both your experience as a student of color and just as a student at this institution, period. What's that been like for you?
Well, coming from an HBCU to a PWI is a really, really big jump. It wasn't much of a culture shock to me because I grew up in Boca Raton, and if you guys are familiar with that city, then you kind of know how it is down there. But coming here, it was like definitely different because now it's like some classes I'm the only African American in the room. So now it's kind of a weird situation when I was in a school just full of African American people. Now I'm the only one within the classroom. But I will say I don't feel singled out or anything. And the opportunities here are like endless. I feel like everyone does what they can do to help you in any way that they can. And it makes sure that like all the resources are there. And yeah, there's no complaints.
Okay. I would say it's been an experience so far. It's been an experience. Like Jay said, coming from an HBCU, but I always like wondered also, like I kind of questioned myself and kind of questioned like, it was more like of a psychology thing for me, like how does going to a HBCU affect me going to a PWI? Like I wonder if I just pinpoint certain things or I see certain things and then when I speak up on it, like is it because it's a problematic type of thing or is it because it's an actual problem? Like it's kind of like it's like a little mind game sometimes. Like is this really an issue or is it only an issue because I went to a HBCU and we said it's an issue? So I do think that for my program, I can only speak for my program that I'm in. So I'm in the advertising program, and the advertising industry, period, is a white male-dominated industry. And I just feel like, as far as the curriculum goes, and then we're in Black History Month, there's a lot of like black advertisers that we could speak on or bring to the forefront and talk about. So I would have liked to see more of that, especially when, some teachers or some professors consider like politics or religion. They don't want to add that into the creative space. But I think that a lot of the political things that's going on, it is the creative space. People are making more content that has meaningful and impactful connotations in it. So it's just kind of like, I don't want them to pick and choose. I don't want them to pick and choose when to be political and when not to be political. Because I've had quizzes recently that, all of it was advertising, but then the bonus questions is like, who's the leader of Roman Empire in this age? And who's Julius Caesar? And like just bonus questions that you could get on the test. And it's just like, it's Black History Month. Ask me who Tom Burrell is. So So, my experience is just like, I just kind of like go with the flow, but I learn as I go as well.
I would say that my experience here has exceeded my expectations. I went to a PWI for undergrad, so it wasn't very much different, but I would say like for the classes at UNCG, I would be maybe 1 in 6 Black people, and then transitioning to Newhouse, it's like 2 or 3 African Americans in the class. So I would say that just diversity is lacking in a sense, and I know I can speak for the SMC track. I'm the only Black female in that department, but I would say that I've had a tremendous amount of opportunities presented to me. I've been able to cover football games. I've been able to cover basketball games. I have my own segment that aired on ACC Network 2 weeks ago during the halftime show. So I would say that just taking all of the opportunities, because they're there. It's like a tremendous amount of opportunities here at Newhouse. Professors, they have the connections in all of my classes, sports and BDJ. Our professors will tell you, like, we're here to help y'all get to where you need to be, because they have that experience. They're working professionals. They've been through like the beginning, middle, end of their careers, or if they're still doing their careers, they know like the positives, like the ups and the downs of being a journalist. So I would say, like, for now, the experience has been like exceptional.
My experience here, I've been working for a long time, and I'm just used to the non-diverse environment. A lot of my Newhouse classes, there's not a lot of people, that look like me in them, and I guess that's fine. I will say that, I don't see a lot of diversity in a lot of Newhouse programs that they do offer, and I have called it out before. But sometimes, I don't want to be the one to always call stuff out. Like, I feel like that as a university and as Newhouse being the program, they should realize that we need to be more diverse. I shouldn't have to point stuff out to them. And I'll just give you an example. So I know I follow the Newhouse page on Instagram. And so there was a bunch of students that went to the NFL draft, or the Super Bowl. And in that post, I didn't see anybody that was Latino, Black, nothing, Asian, nothing. And I commented on the post and I said, where's the diversity? Because I don't see it. Just being a PWI, I feel like that they would offer a white male something before they offer someone that looks like, us. And that's just my experience here. I do feel like you always have to work harder. I do have a son, and so sometimes I can't come to class. But, like last semester, I was a straight A student, made the dean's list. And I think that if I didn't work as hard to get straight A's, will you be more lenient that if the school nurse calls me, I have to go pick up my son, like, it's not that I'm skipping class. Like, I want to be here, but I just can't. And I feel like that I do have to work twice as hard. But that's anywhere, that's not just Syracuse. Like, in my professional life, too. Like, I work full-time in a marketing advertising firm, and sometimes I'm working until 10 o'clock at night because I have to come here and I have to make up those hours. So I do feel like I do have to work harder at things here. I don't have the experience of being at an HBCU, but sometimes it's just not realistic because when you go somewhere, you are not surrounded by nothing but Black people. It's just not a realistic life experience. So I feel like being here, you do get, a lot of diversity a little bit here, but I feel like the opportunities are not as strong.
While they're deciding which one is going to speak next,
Y'all wanna go
I just want to jump in and talk about the Super Bowl photo. That there was an African American student in BDJ who was part of the Newhouse delegation that went to the Super Bowl. So I don't know where he was on picture day, but just wanted to put that out there for anyone who had questions about that.
Okay, so I also come from an HBCU. I transferred this spring semester, and I can say that I definitely dealt with culture shock. My entire life, I've gone to school in Harlem in a predominantly Black school, so this is very new to me. It's nothing but like a lot of resources here and opportunities, but I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I do miss my HBCU with the comfort, but I do feel like it was meant for me to be here. I was very determined to get into the journalism field, and I just feel like it comes with time and it comes with patience, but also like I have to remind myself sometimes that like although like I'm different, I have to kind of embrace it in a way. I've had, my last name is different as well. My last name is Wong Sing, so I've got a couple reactions to where people look at me like I have like two heads. So like, and people have reacted on it, but I just learned to like embrace the fact that I'm different. It's not easy. Sometimes it is mentally challenging and you question yourself like, you know, like, who am I? Like, am I really worth, you know? But it's gonna be easy with time.
Me as a student here, well, we have to go back to me in high school. So from the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, so I'm used to people that's not look like me and still attending to school. Attending to Central State University was a culture shock, but in a good way, because not only I see people who look like me, people who have the same ambition, the same willpower, the same determination to get the job done because they know what they want to do at the end. And then coming up here was a culture shock, but it brought me back to reality. This school year has been very hard. From the beginning, I dealt with a lot of racism, something I'm not really used to. I'm used to stares. I'm used to people looking at me left and right. But literally coming home from work, fall semester, from working at 119, literally a car with 4 white men rolling down the window said that you look funny. And so I'm tired. It's 9 p.m. at night. I'm tired. I had a long day of work, had a long day of school. I just want to go home. And so I asked him again, what did you say? And he said, you look funny. I'm like, okay. And he yelled out, nigga, and then zoomed off. I never dealt with that before. But it was something that took me off guard, but it's like, that's my reality. No matter what I do, no matter how far I come, people still look at me at this title. And so I appreciate my alma mater because we don't have a lot of funding, we don't have a lot of resources, so I had to work with the scraps that I had. I had to build up my work determination and my work ethic to where, because of Central State, I am here. I'm actually making history as we speak. I'm the first out of Central State to make it into Newhouse, and I won't be the last. And I applaud all of the 11 graduate programs, as this year is the most that HBCU students came to the city of Syracuse for Newhouse out of all 11 graduate programs. So shout out to my cohorts. But it still is not enough. And so what I love and I admired about Syracuse is that they are understanding, that they are willing to help you, and the network is amazing. And so now with the content and with my work ethic, now I just gotta polish. I gotta learn how to use a camera. I have to learn how to use audio. Shout out to Vince and Liz with the cage. So when I know how to do that, it's over. I'm taking over the game. And so I appreciate coming here, because even though I went through adversity, my story is going to be amazing for the future, and the future is the next generation to come. And hopefully it won't be a small percentage of African American or of color, it will be more. after we are gone?
Yeah, the reason why I went last only because I'm the only undergraduate up here. Meaning I've been here for 4 years. Everybody else been here for like a year or two. You undergrad as well? Okay. How long you been?
This is my first year.
First year. Yeah. So I've been here for 4 years. You know what I mean? So my experience is a little bit different. First, I'll say I never really questioned too much of my color or my skin because we didn't choose to be black. You know what I mean? But we do have a choice to cherish it. So I always found it to be a beauty of being a minority in certain spaces and understand that we are a representation of more than just ourselves, but a community of young black men and women who look just like us, right? When I first got in, I remember I wanted to amplify the culture a little bit more. Like I wanted to wear a do-rag outside, I wanted to put on some Timbs, just to show that I wasn't assimilating. Like you asked the question earlier about the difference between assimilation and evolution, right? So you should always want to seek to evolve and to grow as a person. That's a part of life. But you're never gonna seek to assimilate, meaning to lose a part of your identity in order to fit in. I ain't never do that, you know what I mean? So now you're gonna see me more in suits, because growing up, I haven't seen too many men that look like me wear certain attire outside of graduations, funerals, proms, and the court. So I wanted to show young men, and we made it a thing within my fraternity, Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, is that on Tuesdays, we're gonna do Professional Tuesdays. But the why behind it is to show young men that you don't only have to dress up in professional attire to go to certain places. Like, the only time you're gonna see me dressed up ain't gonna just be for court. You're not gonna only see me in a suit to go to a graduation. You know what I mean? So I wanted to change the narrative to which you see us portray ourselves. I came in during a time also during Not Again SU, which was a time when we was protesting against some of the racially motivated events that was occurring on campus. What I come to notice, you said in the email, Vince, was like, there's a lot of things or a lot of people that advocated for the things that we have now, and there's gonna be things that we advocate today that we're not gonna be here long enough to foresee. You get me? And I think that's the beauty of it. To have this space today, Syracuse 1870 is founded, right? And you saying this is the 4th time you did this, had a panel of black people in Newhouse. That's sad. Because, right, of SU, you get me? So it's like, we making progression, but it takes that person to be the pioneer, to be that trailblazer, to make certain spaces and things like that. So I think it's been a beauty to be in a minority in this space, because I understand I'm a trailblazer for many things. But what I will say is, like, you gotta maximize the opportunities that Syracuse do provide. You know what I mean? It's like we gotta do our part as well. There is many opportunities and resources at our disposal, meaning that we can have access to it. One thing I credit myself on is networking, relationships, and community. Your community don't always have to look like you. I do come from a predominantly black space, but my community of people don't always look like me. Like I just came from your office, and I was asking them, like, there's certain students that, of course, have prior knowledge, and their parents have been in the entertainment field and in media, so they have a certain amount of prior knowledge to how to occupy the space prior to us. I'm a first-generation student, and with that, I wanted to speak at our graduation, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna go to Dean Liddell. I want to see if you can make an opportunity or a space for somebody to speak that ain't necessarily the student marshal. You know what I mean? Because they have to build a portfolio and meet all these criteria that when you're a first-generation student, you don't come in equipped with that knowledge of this is what needs to be done. I never even knew we had a student marshal until I went to the ESF graduation and I seen a black student marshal. That's when I recognized it because it was a black student. I'm like, what's that? I want to do that. You know, I like that platform. So I went to him, I'm like, yo, is there any opportunities that y'all have for people outside of student marshal that can speak? He said, actually, we actually creating it. He sent out the email today I received for students to apply to be a speaker, and you don't have to be a student marshal. But I'm only saying that to say that if the opportunity wasn't created, I was going to create it. I went to his office with the intention of creating that, but he just happened to be already thinking about it. But what I'm saying is, like, I'm not in this space. Like, it's a lot of things I did here. I don't sit there and wait for opportunity, bro. Like, I don't want to pick on you, but you stated, like, I don't feel like you need to educate faculty on diversity. But if we don't advocate for ourselves, you leave it up to other people to tell our story and our narratives. You know what I mean? One thing I do say is, like, you got to be intentional not only with the images that we portray, but the message that we normalize. Because in a day and age where social media and media has become the main platform in which we become to take in information, a lot of people formulate preconceived notions on who people are based on what they see through media, not through interaction. You get me? So if nobody else advocating, I'm gonna be advocating. I go to every office. I don't think there's no faculty of a high status on this campus, definitely in Newhouse, that don't know me. I know everybody, there's no way. So I'm getting it done. Yo, Dean Liddell, you know what I mean? Fake, I wanted to say I want to speak at the graduation, but I had to ask opportunity, like, let's create a platform. But he already had it going, so okay, bet. I was an orientation leader. They never had a black celebration fete where I brought all the black and brown student organizations onto the women's field during the beginning of the year, and it became an event during Syracuse Welcome Week. I never seen it, so I made it happen. It's like, bro, I like P. Diddy, right? We call him Puff, different names, you know what I mean? But I call him P. Diddy. He say, whatever you want, I'm gonna get. And that's what I live by. It's like, yo, if I want it, bro, it gotta happen. It's no way in my mind, this is what I wanna get done and it's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of things that Syracuse is good for, but there's certain things that we do have to create for ourselves. And then like today, it's the 30 things I could be doing besides being on the panel. But what I was saying is that being here today, I'm always gonna make time for building a blueprint for those coming after me. You know what I mean? Because that's the importance of it. It's like somebody else we gotta pass the baton down to. So like these spaces, advocacy that we're doing is not really for us because I'm not gonna be here long enough to see everything I'm advocating for. But I'm gonna be able to see it happening after I graduate, and that's the beauty of it. You get me? So one thing that I do like about my experience being here for sure is like study abroad. I went to London, I went to Florence this past summer. There's no one in my family that ever left the country. You get me? There's people in my community that don't leave the block. They don't leave the neighborhood. Nonetheless, leave the country. So to even gain the exposure to life outside of when I come to normalize was like an eye opener, right? I say there's two forms of incarceration. One is being a victim, is being incarcerated, of course, behind bars, but the second one is to be a victim of limited exposure. And I think many of us fall to that form of incarceration where we have limited exposure to life outside the one we grew up in. So like, Syracuse afforded me the opportunity to go study abroad for free. And then there was a time, HEOP, they covered the expense, but then I reached out to a mentor to cover the balance, and he did it. You get me? And he was part of Our Time Has Come, which is another program I'm part of. But what I'm saying is like, there's always gonna be things a part of every institution, because this is not a predominantly black institution, not an HBCU, historically black institution, or college. But it is a space that is trying to attempt to become more diverse. So it's gonna take things for us to advocate for, because we all have blind spots. There's certain things of our experiences that a white man or white woman, those that identify outside of ours can't pick up on. You know what I mean? So it's important that we vocalize it. We have those conversations and dialogue, create spaces like this for us to speak upon things that's gonna go to the blind spot of others. You get me? So my main point is that, yes, there's gonna be some hardships and obstacles that we face as students of color within the institution, but there's also many ways and spaces and opportunities for us to create. You know what I mean? So that's the beauty of being here. So my experience has been of mixed emotions, roller coaster. Times I wanted to, you know what I mean, I wanted to transfer. But there's a lot of things I did here, I'm like, I ain't gonna lie, I turned up. And I've been chilling for the last 2 months. But I'm gonna pick it back up, you know what I mean? I've been chilling, but I'm gonna get it back. And the last thing I'm gonna say is like, being students of color, it's not the curriculum itself that makes it a hard experience, or it's not the curriculum that makes Syracuse rigorous for us. It's first balancing being a person of color in America while still trying to be academically efficient. You get me? Because we just had, Tyree Nichols, he just got killed. For me, psychologically, it has an impact seeing my people dying on media, because they only portray a certain narrative of us. And when you portray or victimize a certain community, you start to condition them to have a mindset of captivity. We don't see positive portrayal of black people. We're not reaffirmed in our capabilities. So like even today, having this recorded is important for people that are coming after us to see that they have some form of existence within this space. You get me? So all I want to say is, yeah, it's the beauty of being black. You got to have a certain type of pride, navigate this space, but also to create spaces and always be willing to network and build a sense of community in order to get your vision done.
So there is one of the questions on this list of suggested questions that Vince gave me that I'm somewhat hesitant to ask, because it utilizes a term that I don't particularly like, and that is the term microaggression. There's a reason why I don't like this term. First, some of the aggressions, such as the one you spoke of, don't sound so micro. The other reason I don't like this term is because I believe, right, personal opinion, that this is an over-intellectualized way of describing something that is very visceral and very heartfelt. You know, when I was in college, we experienced microaggressions all the time, but we didn't have some fancy academic word for them. We called them what they were: crazy racist shit white people do. Okay? And sometimes I wonder if this term is a way of somehow removing the emotion from something that at its heart is very visceral, right? Similar to the way I often hear white historians talk about slavery as a peculiar institution. Peculiar. Out of all the adjectives in the English language, that's the one you're using to describe the institution of slavery. Peculiar, it's a bit peculiar. Yes, it is a bit odd, isn't it? Really? Right, so are we doing the same with this term microaggression? But that seems to be the word that's used nowadays, right? So to what extent have you experienced that phenomenon in your time here at Syracuse? And I kind of get.
I can speak.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you use like the term microaggression, people really don't know that they're offending you without like, you know, so I use that term loosely because either you are trying to be racist or you're not, right? So I now that it has a fancy word, like, you know, I graduated a long time ago or got my GED a long time ago. So I think shout out to Gen Z because they're more woke than we ever were, you know? So they will point out like you're being racist. And I think, you know, just growing up back then, like sometimes you don't know that you're offending me without telling that person. So I feel like sometimes people don't really have racist tendencies when they are saying stuff to you. But again, you know, are you trying to be racist? Are you trying to be funny behind your comment and passing it off as a joke? I think like my hair comments, like if I change my hair all the time and it's like, oh, your hair grew overnight. And I was like, you know that my hair did not grow overnight and you know this is a wig and you know, this comments like that. And so I do feel like that's racism. But if someone's just genuinely asking you a question, it's your job to educate that person. And if you do take offense and was like, maybe you should not ask that question like that. That can be offensive. But because I know you're not really offending me because I know you're being genuine behind your question. But if you ask someone that question that does not know you, it's going to look that way.
So I'm going to say this. This is a rhetorical question because I'm going to answer the question. What is the difference between a rich man and a wealthy man? So rich man, you know, he's rich temporarily. A wealthy man can last the money and give the money to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. That is literally how America is when it comes to slavery. So it's drilled in their brain from generation to generation. And so now it's a mentality warfare. And so now that person might not be racist, but his mentality is messed up from his past because how his father was, or how his father was, or how their family was. And so with that, I say it's a mentality thing. And so I do agree it is up to us to educate and to enlighten. But after that, you know, once when you know better, you can do better. And so that will be the decision for them. I dealt with a lot of microaggression in my life. Up here, more than back at home. But once when you address the situation, you know, you just have to move forward and don't let it affect you. I think I can only speak for me, I think a lot of microaggression, whether it's from people that don't look like me or people that do look like me, don't let it change me for who I am. Don't let it take me out of character. I had a long road, and I still have a long road to go about finding out who I really am. I think our generation looks at social media to find out the answers on who we are. And a lot of people try to do things just to get clout, some follows, some likes, and really destroy their identity. And so with that, I try to ignore it. Like, y'all look beautiful up here. You ain't gotta, you know, say, oh, I gotta look like this, or oh, I gotta look like that, or oh, I gotta wear this clothes style just to get some likes. No, y'all look beautiful just the way y'all are, and don't change that for nothing. Don't come to this university and try to change who you are. That's what Jordan said. It's talk about evolution. So when it comes to microaggression, I try to just knock it off because I know who I am.
So we're coming toward the end here. We've got about 10 minutes left before we call it a wrap. If you had the power to change something at the Newhouse School or at Syracuse University, what would that be?
If I had the power to change anything at Newhouse, again, I can only speak from my experience. I'm in the advertising program. I think it kind of ties back to what Jordan was saying about the portrayal and images of African American and people of color in the media, and also back to what he was saying about not just talking about it, but really being about it and creating those opportunities. So my way of being about it is being proactive and taking the steps that I need to take to see what I want to see, and that was going into advertising. So a lot of it, some people, they say like the eyes is the window to the soul. And I also feel like when we see images over and over and over and over and over and over, it's ingrained and it's beat into your head pretty much that this is what it is. So I just feel like it was my duty to go into advertising and change the images and change some of the commercials and change some of the movies and change some of the way that even products were being marketed to our community, whether it's perms being marketed to our community, whether it's anything. So I would change some of the curriculum. Some of the inclusive, I want it to be more inclusive, that's all. Like, I just want it to be more inclusive. I would like to see more black advertisers being talked about, because Tom Perrell, like, he pretty much ran the 90s. Steve Stout, he's at Translation. He has, like, one of the top advertising companies. And he doesn't just work with black people, they work with all kinds of people. But like the McDonald's campaign, McDonald's as a corporation, they didn't even know how to market to our community. And I'm not saying they should, because I personally don't think it's even healthy. But, you know, they had to outsource a black advertiser because they wanted his opinion and his viewpoint on how would you do this, how would you do that, how would this, you feel what I'm saying? So no matter whether it's McDonald's, Walmart, Whole Foods, whoever it is, I just feel like it's my duty to advertise the correct things and the correct images.
I would say for me, if I could change anything, it would be to make more scholarship opportunities available to people of color, because for me, between the two schools, Newhouse offered me the most money, and I knew that it's the #1 school in the country for broadcast and digital journalism, and like this is the place that I needed to be. And I also believe in being the change you want to see. Growing up in sports, watching it with my dad, I never really saw black women being sideline reporters, black women being on these shows, Get Up, et cetera. But to now see Kimberly A. Martin, she's a Newhouse grad, she's a sideline reporter. I just saw her like in December on Get Up, and I'm just like, hey, like this is what I want to do. I want to be a sideline reporter just like her. AJ Ross, she's went to Howard, but just to see these women of color making a difference, I want to be the change in the next couple of years, being in the NFL and knowing that like this is a platform that black women can be on. It, you know, it doesn't have to only be black men or males in general. Like women can be in sports, talk about sports, because we know what we're talking about. And I think that Newhouse afforded me an opportunity because of that scholarship to say like I'm a black woman in the sports element and in Newhouse sports in general.
I guess just like the inclusivity. Let me just point out, like I know that you have to create your own opportunities, which I have been doing since I, got my GED. But you shouldn't have to. Like you should, but you really shouldn't have to. If you have people that are surrounded, it takes a village. I believe in that. I am wholeheartedly on that. I'm a single mom, and I don't just raise my son by myself. It truly takes a village. And I just feel like, you shouldn't have to advocate for the things that you should have to advocate, but if you have people that are surrounding you, it's like, well, what are you around me for? If you are not gonna help me and help me grow, then I don't need you around me. So I just wanted to just clear that up, because you should advocate for yourself. You should always advocate for yourself. But if you are paying an institution $70,000, you should not have to try that hard. And that's just my own personal feelings on that. But I would just mimic what you said, is just like the more scholarship and opportunities, because Newhouse is so expensive. And, I did owe a balance to Newhouse. And, I kind of had to just cry and like really just beg for this money. And, at first the only thing that they offered me was like, take out a private loan. And I'm like, take out a private, I have rent, I have NIMO, I have, being a non-traditional student is really hard because you don't realize the bills that I have, and I just think that there's more scholarship opportunities and money for people to come here, because it's so expensive, and, you may not have other options to come here, and you may look at a different school, which is what I was going to do. But again, just the more opportunities.
Definitely inclusion. I definitely would love to have Syracuse go to more HBCUs. Syracuse didn't come to Central State, I can, yeah. But y'all went to Clark, I feel like, there are a lot of people like us with the work ethic, with the drive, with the creativity, with the great content at the HBCUs. Definitely, I would say attend, just recruit more at these other institutions. And also, I had the opportunity to go to New York City for the TRF program, and we spoke to a lot of alumni, but there was an alumni that looked like me. And so I know that there are alumni, graduate and undergraduate, that look like me, that graduated from this school, that are very successful at what they do. I believe there should be opportunities for them to come back and speak. Jordan had an opportunity to speak to Speedy, am I right? And that was a opportunity because Speedy kind of dissed Newhouse. And so they was like, yeah, we need to get this man on board and let him speak. But that shouldn't be the last. So definitely more inclusion.
All right, so for mine, I got a few. So one, I would like to see a wall of honor for Black and brown alumni. And in regards to that, I'm saying, because there's I don't know the exact name of it, but I would say like the wall of recognition that I see, right? I would like to see some Black and brown alumni images, and not the ones from 1989. I need some of our new generational people that we say pushing P, meaning they doing it, you know what I mean? Like really making a difference in the media entertainment. So Speedy Mormon was one of them. He's an on-air host for Complex. But there's several alumni that I feel like we have failed in regards to the lack of recognition for the work that they have done. We credit Syracuse University, like we paid this $80,000 not just for the education that we obtaining, but really for the alumni network. But if the alumni network of color feel disengaged, it impacts the students of color, because now we lack the ability to establish a relation with those that have been in our shoes and are now creating spaces and change post-graduate, right? So we gotta really find a way outside of monetary, outside of donations, to find ways to engage with our Black and brown alumni so that we have that ability to establish that relationship with them. The second thing, I think diversity amongst faculty and tenure professors. I think that's a dialogue that we often don't have because we don't understand what tenure really means, and that's not a conversation that we have. Diversity amongst students, of course, but we need to advocate for the faculty, the staff, and things like that as such, because those are the people that we look to in times when we may be questioning our identity, where we may feel like we don't belong. I don't even think, I probably had like one Black professor in Newhouse, if that, you know what I mean? And you can't say that we don't exist, because there's a lot of people that's of color that's making a difference within the media industry. So we gotta find a way to do that. If I only see the faculty or the people that look like me in the institution, in the catering, in food services, I'm not saying that those are bad jobs, but it shows me that Syracuse may only think those are the things that we are capable of doing, when we are capable of doing much more than just that. So I think the advocacy for representation in faculty positions, staff and then tenure professors, because tenure professors have a certain security when it comes to employment that I don't see. I would say in regards to the BDJ program or even TRF, teaching, like BDJ specifically, outside of just sports. Not all of us aspire to be in sports. I don't want to do anything with sports. I actually want to be like the male Oprah and then like the President of the United States. You get me? So like, I don't want to do anything in sports, really. I don't want to do no reporting, but I have to learn how to do it. But I feel like we had courses in which educate us on how to do an entertainment media, how to hold podcasts and conversation. We have Q's conversation. I want to speak to John that run that too, because I feel like we need to make those spaces and opportunities for students to hold those dialogue and conversations. When we bring guests, by default, it should be a student moderator. For many reasons. I wrote this all down. That's why you asked the question, but I got it written. I'll talk about it later. But I feel like it should be student moderators for many reasons. One, it allows us to apply what we learned in the class into real life. The second is that many students are going to come to certain spaces because the student is hosting it. When I held the Speedy conversation, people came on the trip that they may not even knew Speedy, but they knew me. So they came to see me do it. So if you want to increase student attendance and engagement, you have to have a student moderator. You know what I mean? So it's different things. Then establishing a relationship. If I'm holding or being a moderator of a conversation with an alumni that's successful, I then get to bridge that relationship and establish that with him on a more genuine basis. The last one, well, two more. I'm gonna say understand that students are more than just a part of collegiate space. I think that's across the board. I feel like one of my hardest things to do in class is managing my life while being a student, right? And I think professors lack the ability to understand that we are more than just in your class. It's a lot of things that I do outside of class. Like, come to understand that a student is more than just BDJ. You get me? I'm a part of fraternities. We are a part of movements. We are trying to ensure that everybody that come here feel like they belong. So I have to make time and allocate it to more than just a class itself. You get me? Like this panel itself. Right now, I could be doing an assignment. I can't tell my professor, yo, I'm gonna be late tonight on this submission because I had to go speak to the panelists to make sure everybody that looked like me felt motivated to come. You get me? But that's things that I do. So you gotta understand your student is much more than just a collegiate student itself. And the last one, I think this is for all of us, just never to succumb to silence. I think there's gonna be many instances in this world where we have to take a stance for something. It's gonna come at the expense of a lot of other things, right? And I feel like we've entered a time period where we allowed our positionality, our money to silence us. And to change us from taking a stance on things that we would have done because we wanted to make sure we maintain a certain security. But what I would say is like never succumb to silence. For me, I do not talk for nothing. Like if I feel like I believe in something, I firmly believe in it, I stand on it, no matter who's in the room with me. And I want to advocate for all of us to find that thing that we will sacrifice everything for if that's what it came down to. So never succumb to silence. Don't allow nobody to make it feel like your opinion don't matter, that your voice don't matter, that your presence don't matter. You know what I mean? So I want to make sure you just never succumb to silence and never forget the end goal and why we in these certain spaces, why we occupy these spaces that we do.
And just like an outstanding BDJ major, Jordan ended on time. Thank you all for the conversation. Thank you all for coming.